Hello friends, welcome back to another video. We are going to be doing another series, and this series is going to be all about how to build a professional author toolbox. And before we jump straight into the 5 main things that you need to have in your toolbox, I want to take a quick moment and define something, because and this is maybe not going to be a very popular take, but I think it's a really important distinction to make. Personally, even if you don't make it, generally. And full disclosure, I don't actually make this distinction generally. I only make it personally. I'll talk more about that in a second. Okay, so I want to define the difference between a writer, an author, and a professional author. These are 3 different categories. They are not the same. And the more we treat them as if they are the same, the harder it becomes for people to get what they want out of writing. Writing is an absolutely wonderful thing, and anybody can do it. It is not limited to a particular group of people. It's not limited to people who have a particular gifting. That's not it. If you are literate, you can write. And we might even get to the point where you don't actually have to be literate in order to be able to do this. Because things like voice-to-text technology through dictation and text-to-voice through electronic readers, they might actually be able to enable somebody who doesn't have the ability to read to write. That's a kind of a bizarre concept, actually, and maybe we can talk about that in a later video. But the point is that writing is not an exclusive thing. It's open to anybody who wants to do it. It's open to people who want to write novels or novellas, short stories, flash fiction, doesn't matter. If you like writing songs, you can write songs. The point is, everybody can do it. But that's writing. And if you want to be a writer, then that's what you do. You sit down and you write whatever it is you want to write. And that's sort of the end goal, is to get the words down on the paper, or to express them in a particular way. That's different than being an author. An author is somebody who wants to publish. An author is somebody who wants to put content out into the world for other people. Writers can write for themselves. Authors cannot. Authors are writing for other people. In order to be an author, you have to publish what you write. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it full time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it in a particular way. It just means that you have to do it. If you're writing serialized fiction on the web, you're as much of an author as someone who, puts out a book and Simon & Schuster picks it up and publishes it and puts it in a bookstore. There's no distinction there. Right? There are different kinds of authors, but both of those people are authors. They are publishing their content so that other people can consume it. But there's also a difference between an author and a professional author, okay? Because you can be an amateur and publish, and that's totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You can write your stories and then say, I think I'd like other people to read them, and so I'm going to publish them, and that's cool. But being a professional author that is making it your full-time living is a different sort of pursuit. Not only do you have to write your content and then publish your content, but you have to sell your content in enough volume that you can make a living from it. Now, we could get into the weeds here and quibble about whether or not a professional author is more of a mindset than a destination. That is to say, you don't necessarily have to be making your living from it to be a professional author. You might be in the early stages of it, or you might still be looking for the kind of content you want to sell, but you have the mindset of a professional author, of somebody who wants to sell in volume. And so maybe that's a better distinction. So a writer is someone who writes stories or poems or whatever it is they want to write. An author is somebody who publishes what they write. And a professional author is someone who takes it very seriously, who puts in the effort to learn the business side of being an author so that they can sell a lot of what they're writing. Okay, and I think it's important to have this distinction because we are talking about a professional author toolkit. right? This is a toolkit for somebody who wants to make money on what they publish. Now, I think this is important because, writers write and authors publish, but professional authors publish a lot, either in quality or quantity, in order to give themselves a competitive advantage. Writers make art, authors make art that other people might want to consume, and professional authors make art that people want to buy. Writers write for one person, authors write for a group of people, and professional authors write for a demographic. And see, these are all slightly nuanced ways of thinking about this whole writing thing that provide the demarcation between an author and a professional author. Okay, so keep that in mind as we continue on. But now, without any further ado, here are 5 important tools for your professional author toolbox. All right, so the first tool that we are going to talk about is your writing habit. This is just your most important tool, period. Professional authors must have a writing habit. They absolutely have to produce content, and if they do not produce content, then it doesn't work. You can't sell nothing, or at least you can't sell nothing ethically. And so if you want to sell a lot of something, then you have to have content. Now, I tend to favor volume of content versus quality of content. And if you're really curious about that, ask me in the comments and maybe I'll do a video on it. But regardless of what strategy that you're pursuing, you must write. There has to be something written. Okay, so your writing habit is absolutely your number one tool. Okay, but if you're building a writing habit, what do you need to do? Well, first thing you need to do is you need to make it easy. You need to make it so easy that you just won't skip, right? You'll constantly come back to it. You'll constantly be writing every single day or however many times a week you can afford to do it. You should be writing. The second thing you need to do is make it consistent. It just has to happen over and over and over again. You don't want to go through, long seasons where you're doing no writing. Now, there may be a season where you do less writing or you don't write as much, but as much as possible, you want to stay out of that and you want to stay in the consistent habit of writing. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to make it fun. And you make it fun by introducing new strategies or introducing new themes or learning more about your craft. There are all sorts of different ways to make your writing habit fun. But if it's not easy and it's not consistent and it's not fun, you're going to stop doing it. You're not going to continue. And if you're a professional author and your writing habit dies, your career will die as well. Doesn't matter how popular you are. It doesn't matter how successful you are. If your writing stops, your career will stop as well. It may take some time, but eventually it'll be gone. The next tool you need in your professional author toolkit is space. This comes in a couple of different forms. You need physical space, but you also need mental space. And you're actually going to do the same thing for both of these. Right? Whether it's physical or mental, but it works both ways. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick a spot. This is either your physical location or it is a point in time. Okay, one of the two, depending on whether we're talking about physical space or mental space. Okay, but you're going to pick a spot, and that is your spot to have space, right? For me, that's my office downstairs. It's my desk. And on the mental side, it is between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. every single day. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to clear your desk. Okay? Nothing on the top of your desk. I don't care if you like a lot of like cool things to spark your inspiration. Nope, get rid of them. Clear them off. Okay? You can always add things back on, but you must start completely clear. And again, this works whether it's a physical space or it's mental space, right? Clear the things you need to do from your day. If you have a giant laundry list of tasks that you have to do, you cannot be thinking about those tasks while you are trying to be a professional author, right? These things don't work together. Instead, what you need to do is you need to just make space in your life. And again, if it's your desk, where you're going to be writing, clear it off. Get rid of anything that could be a distraction. If it's mental space, you identifying when it is you're going to work on being a professional author, get rid of all of your distractions, get rid of anything that's going to intrude into that time. When I'm writing, I leave my phone upstairs. I have no notifications on. I'm aggressive about getting rid of anything that's going to intrude on that time. And then finally, we're going to use our space to set our triggers. Okay? When I walk into my office and I sit down at my writing desk, because I take this so far that I have 2 different desks. Currently, I'm at my other stuff desk, which is over here, and then you can see this wall right here. On the other side of that wall, you'll be able to see it actually if you jump into the streams, is a completely other desk with a completely other computer that I only use for writing. The only thing I do on that computer is write. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to clear my mental space and it allows me to clear my physical space, so that when I move into those spaces, either mentally or physically, I immediately trigger the, I guess it's writing time mentality. As soon as I sit down, I'm now ready to write, because this is the space in which I do this specific thing. And if you're going to be a professional author, this is so vitally important. That brings us to the third thing that we really need in our toolbox, which is the right mindset. This one's a little bit harder and would take a really long time to unpack fully. So I'm just going to give you sort of 3 basic mindsets that, or maybe frameworks is a better way to say it, that I use to ensure that I can keep going in this. The first is the inevitability of success. As long as I keep at this and as long as I work hard, I will get there. It may take some time. I may take some side paths, and I might get lost. I might not have a really good time on a day-to-day basis, or, I might hit some bumps, but I will get there. I will get where I'm trying to go, as long as I keep moving forward. No matter how incrementally the distance between me and my goal will constantly shrink. However, if I want to have that mindset, then the second framework that I need to use is averaging over months and years instead of averaging over hours and days. If I look back at the last week and I try to think to myself, how well did I do? Did I do particularly well this week? I'm going to come up with one of 2 answers. Either yes, I did great, or no, I didn't do very well. But if I come up with these answers, right, if I say, yeah, I did great, then I'm going to start feeling really good about myself, which is fine, except that I'm probably going to start slacking off because I feel good about myself. And if I say, no, I really didn't do well, then I might actually just get depressed because I haven't been doing well, and I might slack off. And so either way, I could end up slacking off. However, if instead of just focusing on the last week, and I don't think focusing on the last week is incorrect per se, but if instead of that, I look at the last month, or the last 2 months, or the last 6 months, or 12 months, and I say, how am I doing compared to where I was 12 months ago? Then all of a sudden, I have this brand new picture. There were some things I did well, there are some things I did poorly, but I'm much further along than I was 12 months ago. I have made progress, even if I've only written half a book. That's half a book that I didn't have before, and I'm sure I've learned a lot of things along the way. And so averaging over a longer period of time is just much healthier. It produces fewer, ups and downs, fewer mood swings. It allows us to be more consistent and to hold on to this idea that success really is inevitable. And then the last really important mindset to have in your toolbox is that feedback is your friend. All feedback is your friend. The more critical the feedback, the better. I'm not joking about this. Feedback is your friend. And if you can hold that attitude, then it means that every single time you do something that isn't perfect, it's a learning opportunity, which means that everything is a learning opportunity. It means that everything that you do that is wrong, or anything that you do that isn't as good as it could be, is just fuel for your inevitable success. I'll do a full breakdown video of each of these points over the next few weeks, and we'll talk more about mindset in a later video. Like I said, mindset is a huge one, and we could spend forever talking about it. So we're going to jump into the next point. This is tool number 4 that you need in your toolbox. Every professional author needs a brand. They need to be able to have a way for people to clearly identify what they're getting with their book. Now, it's important to understand that everybody who's in the public sphere has a public persona and a private persona. And what I'm talking about here is your public persona. Now, the closer you can marry those two together, or the closer you can get those two, the better. Because it'll be more natural. You'll be able to just sort of exist without feeling like, oh, I have to switch into my public brand. But you do want to have a public brand. Your public brand is going to be a bit more professional, a bit more nuanced, and it's going to be built to appeal to your core demographic because you want to provide a core reader experience. If you don't provide a core reader experience, it's going to be really hard to generate the flywheel you need in order to grow your audience exponentially. So for example, my stories are all about exploring worlds. That's like everything I've ever written has at its core this idea that an individual who may have some challenges, may have some concerns about the world or their place in the world, is now going out to explore the rest of the world. They're going to explore a new place. And so I want to make sure that everything I'm doing in my brand is aimed at that core reader experience, inviting people to come with me on this grand adventure and to explore these new worlds. However, I do want to add, sort of as our caveat here, that we want simple over complex, right? That doesn't mean that I need to weave this fanciful story every time I post something. No, it just means that I need to pay attention to how I'm engaging with people. I want to make sure that my messaging is inviting people along with me, that I'm highlighting new and interesting things, that I'm asking people questions about how would you do this or that or the other thing. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll see that I often ask questions in my social media content. And a big part of that is actually because I'm interested in exploring new spaces together with other people. And one of the ways we do that is we start to ask these questions. How would I handle this particular situation or that particular situation? But we want to make sure that our brand is easy to communicate and is simple rather than becoming really complex and weighty, right? So you want to pick 1 or 2 core reader experiences, preferably 1, that you're going to just draw out over the long term. And then the final thing that we need in our writer's toolbox is a community. Now, when we talk about community, things get a little bit tricky, because this is very hard and it is not necessarily going to have an immediate monetary reward, but over time it will be tremendously useful. And we want not just a writing community, not just an author community, but a professional author community. We want a community that will be able to encourage us and will be able to walk alongside of us in our writing, but do it in a way that is focused on the selling of books. Because if you want to be a professional author, you have to sell books. And so being around other people who are successful in that and are selling books is one of the biggest shortcuts you can take to selling books yourself. You really need to pay attention to the people you're around. I'm not at all encouraging you to exclude other people or not form relationships with them because it might not benefit you in some way, shape, or form. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Just understand that if you want to build a good professional author community, you need to be putting yourself in spaces where there are other professional authors. You need to be engaging with them in a way where you are giving more than you are getting. And you need to compose yourself as a professional would. I'm not sure if it's because of the internet or something else, but I have noticed that a lot of people simply do not understand how to conduct themselves professionally. And It sucks because they suck to interact with. Like, they're just not fun to interact with because they don't understand how to compose themselves in a group setting or, with people they don't know or are not familiar with. They don't understand sort of the basics of how to be polite. The number of times I've been approached at an event and somebody inserts themselves into a conversation, and then the conversation, which was good, just falls apart and dies. Like, that has happened so many times. And to a point, you feel bad for the person who just inserted themselves because they were clearly trying to engage well, and they were clearly, stepping out of their comfort zone to talk to other people. But there is a proper way to do it and an improper way to do it. And if you get a reputation in professional circles for not being professional, you're sunk. Pay attention to how you're interacting with other people. Make sure that you are giving more value than you are getting, and make sure that you're hanging out in places where you can meet other professionals. So these are the 5 main tools that I think need to be in every single professional author's toolkit. Starting from, very personal, your writing habit, your writing space, your mentality, and getting a bit more public with your author brand and your professional circle. But if you can build these 5 tools into your toolkit, then nothing is going to stop you. Like, literally nothing. Your success really will be inevitable. Anyway, let me know down in the comments below if there are any things that you want more clarification on. Like I said, I am going to be doing a series on this where I break down each of these 5 tools in greater depth because, it's one thing for me to sit here and just gloss over them. But the question of okay, how do I actually adopt the correct mindset? Or how do I actually engage well with people when they're in conversation and I'm not part of that circle, I don't know anybody there. How do I actually step into that space? Those are things that need a little bit more time, a little bit more depth. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also join me 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. I jump on YouTube and I stream writing sprints. And if you'd like to get some consistency in your life and, get some more writing in, or really just do whatever work you need to do, come and join our sprints.